I wonder if there's a way, once the class has begun, to change the preferences so people are admitted automatically. I'm going to see because we should just have it set up that way to begin with. I never set these up. So
I think Zoom might have prevented that. At some point, people were getting their Zoom rooms like bombed, I guess is the word. And I don't know.
that. But I still have it when I set up personal meetings with someone.
Interesting.
I still have that feature to allow
Yeah.
someone in or into the waiting room. So we have a business account, so it might be different for us.
Maybe so. I mean, see,
Yeah, because
I just remember that at some point they make me now choose between, do you want a waiting room or a password? And you can't get rid of, you have to have one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, it
maybe
might be the same.
it's changed.
Yeah, it has. Well, Zoom did very well during COVID, I'm sure. Yeah, if I can do it, I don't think I can do it during the meeting, so that's fine.
38. I would say that's pretty good. 39. We're getting there.
Yeah, I see we're up to 42. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I'll do a little.
And it's maybe not, I mean, not everybody's interested in this topic either. So, and nobody knows who I am. So there's another element of like.
What's interesting is that I think any voice actor should take up any free thing they can. I mean, you can't always make every single free session. There's probably 1,000 free things out there somewhere or another, but I don't know. Anyway, it is 9:00, so let me admit all.
Cool.
We have 43 people in right now. Okay, they're all coming in right now.
Right. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, I think everyone's connecting to audio right now. Okay. Hello, everybody out there. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Good evening.
Was that Randy I just heard a moment ago?
Yeah, that was me, except I'm on a $50 laptop in my living room, so I have no idea how this is going to go.
I recognize your voice. Very cool. Hey, guys.
Hey. Hello.
Let me just admit a few more people here and change our gallery mode. One moment, please. I'm just clicking a couple of buttons here. Actually, Erica.
Yeah.
Can you? Oh, here I have.
Would you like me to vamp?
Nope, I just got it. Cool. So tonight's Ask Me Anything. Actually, let me start that again. Hello and welcome to Ask Me Anything. I am David Goldberg. I'm the CEO. I like to say Chief Edge Officer of Edge Studio. And with me, we have Erica Brookheyser, who is the most amazing, talented medical voice actor you'll ever find. She's terrific. And so tonight's focus, how's that? Erica told me exactly the words to use to describe her. Tonight's Ask Me Anything is really different because Siobhan, our usual host, is not on tonight. She could not make it tonight. And I said to Erica prior to the start of this class, I said, I think a lot of people will actually take Ask Me Anything, not for voiceover, but just they follow Siobhan. People really like Siobhan. So I could do my best to emulate her, but it surely wouldn't go over very well. So I'll let her be herself and I'll be myself and you'll hear from myself and Erica. Anyway, we are here to talk about medical voiceover, medical, pharmaceutical voiceover, all of those scripts that with big, gigantic words that are hard to pronounce that Erica is hired for time and time again. And I think that even if medical voiceover is not in your wheelhouse, you will probably walk away from this hour with some techniques that will help you in all different kinds of scripts, no matter what your genre is. So Ask Me Anything is pretty simple. Oh, Erica, thank you for letting people in. I just looked and no one's there. Cool. The way Ask Me Anything goes, in case you've not been here before, it's pretty simple. You guys can ask questions. You can type them into the chat. And then Erica and I will do our best to glance through the chat, find questions that are interesting, that might be helpful for everyone, and we'll do our best to answer them as quickly and as efficiently as we can. Um, we are recording this call, so you can. I believe that these are posted on our YouTube channel a few days after the class. What is super important to know is that throughout the class, I'm sure people will ask some interesting questions. And I'm sure, based on all the other Ask Me Anythings we've had, other people will chat back with some responses. So that chat is going to have a lot of really interesting information, very helpful, very useful information. And I would strongly encourage you to download that chat at the end of the Ask Me Anything in an hour from now. When this meeting ends, in other words, at the end of the hour, and Eric and I say, bye, everyone, thanks for coming. When we end the meeting, that chat will disappear. So you need to download the chat right around the end of the class. We'll give you a few minutes to do so. And I'll do my best to remember to remind you to download the chat. So let me officially introduce you to Erica. Erica, do you mind just talking a little bit about who you are and how you got into medical narration?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. And I'm calling in not from my usual booth space. I'm actually in New York, but I live in Boston normally. So I'm calling you from a random room somewhere in New York with a beautiful view of the Hudson River. So my background before voiceover was as an opera singer. And I only bring that up, not because it has very much to do with voiceover, except that I was already singing a bunch of operas in foreign languages. And so when I started seeing scripts with kind of these Latin-based words or Greek or things, I thought, oh, right, this is just like learning Finnish or trying to sing in German or Russian. It's just kind of, you figure out what the sounds are and then decide that figure out your method for kind of writing it out so you can sound like you're fluent. So that's kind of how I got my start with medical. I'm also married to someone who works for a pharmaceutical company in Boston. And so we have the New England Journal at home, and we talk medicine. Well, she talks medicine and I talk medicine when they pay me to talk medicine. And I do a lot of other stuff too. And I think what's interesting about medical is that sometimes it's very technical and you're talking to scientists or doctors, and sometimes you're talking to patients. And so I want to kind of, that healthcare itself is a really enormous genre that can include, I think, that kind of authoritative, scientific, educational sort of speak, and also goes all the way to helping a patient understand a treatment that they're about to undergo. And so you kind of have to experiment with different tones of voice because of the audience that you're speaking to. So I don't know if that gives you very much of a background, but that's kind of how I'm starting, I guess, this talk.
Here's an interesting question. Before we get to your questions, everyone, Erica, what is the most interesting job in the medical world you've had?
Oh, the most interesting job. I had to do, I didn't have to do, I got hired to do an audiobook of a doctor's research in Lyme disease. And he went through all of the literature and essentially reduced all of the articles that he had written on, or that he had found by scientists and by the clinical community, and reduced them down into kind of bite-sizable bits for his patients, because he found that Lyme disease is this chronic disease that doesn't have a lot of, I think for a while it wasn't even believed to have to be a disease. Like, people were just kind of psychosomatically sick. And now that we have long COVID, they're getting a little bit more credibility. Anyway, this book I read, it was 7 hours, and he didn't mince any words. He essentially said, you patients need to be equipped with all of the medical knowledge so you can advocate for yourself. And I thought that was it felt like such an honor to be able to essentially read the New England Journal for these people, a little bit more reduced down to bite-sized bits. But that was probably one of the most interesting things I've done so far. It felt like a really direct, I don't know, like a direct experience with listeners and with patients.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Let me jump. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, if you want to go through the questions in the chat, you can, or I can. I just wasn't sure how to manage all that.
Yeah. While you were speaking, I was skimming through some of the chat questions, and there's some interesting things. One, someone wrote something about downloading the chat, which I want to read. I just wanted to see if I'm missing something. They said, if this is like all other Zoom chats I've been on, people can save the chat at any time. When saved, oh, yeah, someone is saying that you can save the chat at any time, and that is true. But if you save the chat now, for instance, you'll only get what's currently in the chat. So my suggestion is certainly you can save it now, so you don't forget later. At least you'll get something. But my suggestion is to make sure at the end of this hour, that's when you save the chat, because by that point, there will be even more information in that chat for you to download. Okay, so let's get going. Let me find an interesting question. Here's one. This is from Deariest. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. When recording a medical audio book, do you record the cited material? Erica?
No, it's one of those things that you want to discuss with every author, but typically I kind of follow the audiobook standard, which is not to include the citations. And then what I encouraged, in this case, the author of the book, the physician, he created a PDF document that accompanied the audiobook, as well as a website that people could go to get the citations.
One of the things, I'm throwing this in, one of the things that's very big in audiobooks right now are audio descriptions. I'm looking at the first page of Zoom, so I see probably 25 people. But of the 25 who I see right now, just in my perspective, have any of you heard of audio descriptions? I'm seeing a few heads. Okay. It's sort of all the rage right now in voiceover. It's a terrific thing. Audio descriptions are narrated descriptions of things which are visual inside a script. So if you're narrating an audiobook, for example, and there's a chart or a graph or a picture, what does the voice actor do with that? You can't narrate a chart. So what happens is there are copywriters who write audio descriptions. They say, now you're looking at a chart, and there's a horizontal axis and a vertical axis, and in the chart is this, and the left side it means this, and the graph goes this way, and or they talk about the photo or the graphic, whatever it might be. There will generally be in nonfiction audiobooks, or sorry, not in audiobooks, in manuals and pamphlets and white papers and things like this, there will be a lot of charts. So Erica, when you read audiobooks, medical books, medical papers, medical documents, I presume that there are a lot of charts and graphics and visuals that come into play. What do you do with them when you're reading the material?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of treat it as a textbook in the sense that if it's important information, then the author has to be able to translate it from a visual to a sentence that I can read. And if they've decided that the visual is more important, funny enough, it was like for Lyme disease, there was an entire graphic of all of the rashes that one can have and what they would look like. And I was like, they have names, but the names don't really mean anything if they can't see the picture. And in which case, the author ended up going back through and creating a description that I could read, and then also a link or a PDF document that they could also refer to. So I think in general, it ends up being a lot of conversations back and forth if somebody hasn't already thought of it in advance. And I find that if the writers are copywriters who know really who their audience is and who they're writing for, they will have already thought of that. But if you're a physician and you're used to writing things for journals, especially for medicine journals or even medical blogs or whatever, you're used to people having all these pictures. And so sometimes we have to have that conversation with them. respectfully, of course, but in such a way that they know that, people are listening. They're having an oral experience.
Okay, I have two more questions. Well, there are a lot of questions, and everyone, I appreciate the questions. Two are really interesting. They just came in. One of them, I've never had a question like this. We've had probably 60 or 70 Ask Me Anythings. No one has ever asked this before. I wonder if we could hear a sample of her, meaning Erica, reading difficult text. So that's putting you on the spot. But Erica,
That is
you're
putting
so
me
good.
on the spot. I would have to go find a script because I don't memorize it, believe it or not.
You don't memorize these scripts. If you don't have to read right now, you don't need to perform. But if you thought it would be interesting, and if you happen to have something with you, that'd be fun, but it's not necessary. Quick note on audio descriptions, even though we're talking about medical, the medical focus tonight. This is interesting. A lot of children's books are being narrated with audio descriptions, especially because it's terrific for sight impaired children. Because you think about a typical child who has full eyesight, they read a book, a storybook, a picture book, and they're terrific pictures. And those pictures communicate so much of the story. So what about a sight impaired child who's reading the book? They lose all of that. Like Erica is talking about, reading a book about Lyme disease rashes. Well, how do you communicate that when the person listening to the audiobook can't see the graphic? So in children audiobooks, there are copywriters now who are writing an audio description of the actual pictures themselves, and that's inserted in between the narrator of the actual story. So there will be someone reading the story, then someone else, the narrator, talking about or reading the audio description, and they go back and forth, which is super cool. The other question was, Erica, how do you find the pronunciations for for diseases and drugs?
Usually, sorry, I lost all of you guys for a second. I did find a script, by the way.
Fun.
Merriam-Webster has a wonderful medical dictionary. It doesn't have everything, but typically you can find, I would say, 85% of the words, 90% of the words. I also use, and I'll put it in the chat right now, I also use something called Youglish, which is, it's like a YouTube for pronunciation of words. And I think it was actually designed for people who are trying to learn English and find out how to pronounce something. You have to be so anyway, I'll give you an example. You might put in a word that you don't know how to say, and then it will show you 5, 10, 50 videos of someone saying that word. And in context, the thing is, it's 5, 10, 50 different people saying it possibly 50 different ways. You'll get some examples in Australia. You'll get some examples in Britain. You'll get someone who kind of mumbles it. You'll get someone from India. You'll get a bunch of different ones. You might even get the CEO of a company that is saying the name of the drug, and you're like, that's it. That's how they pronounce it. And you find out that even the CEO says it wrong. So you have to be careful with Youglish, but it's also really great if you're looking for words that aren't in the medical dictionary. However, I will say that all to say that typically I would never go on either of those sources, the Merriam-Webster Medical Dictionary or the Youglish Dictionary, without checking with the client first. At the end of the day, if there's a word that you've never heard, somebody said the American Manual of Pronunciation Guide is another good one. Somebody else also put in Forvo. That's another option. I find with medical terms, I don't find as much stuff on Forvo, but Youglish, especially for brand names or for like a condition. Sometimes people have given talks. I mean, this is what the Youglish has done, is taken all of like the conference talks on various diseases or various treatments, and then has excerpted the couple of words that you're looking for. So that's why I like using Youglish as just a resource, but it's not kind of the definitive, but it's how I have sometimes made it headway. And then I always check with the client.
Yeah, when so I'm in a different position compared to Erica, because Erica is the voice talent. I'm directing typically. And at the studio, when we receive medical scripts, which we do a lot of medical work, a whole lot of it, we very often will ask the client for a pronunciation guide. So all of you can ask the client for that. I recognize the fact that sometimes you win a job through through an online casting site, for example, where you may not have direct contact with the client, and then you do need to go to whatever resources you can. You can also call the company sometimes and ask them how to pronounce a word. That sometimes you can get through to someone and they are helpful, and sometimes you can't. If you are in a situation where you think that there are two or more possible pronunciations, read the script all different ways. Give the client a couple of different versions. And when you send off the file to the client, you say, I've heard two different ways to pronounce this particular word. I think one may be the UK and English, and one may be American English. I'm not sure. I've given you both takes in a row in succession. When you get to that part of the script on page 17, paragraph 3, just delete one of them, and that's fine. And what I would do, side note, is when you are recording, record that sentence that has a potential different pronunciation. Just record it one after the other. So you stay in the same energy level, the same vein, the same breath control. That way, when either one is edited out, then what's left over sounds fine. So that's a nice thing. And it shows clients that you care. It shows clients that you did some research. It's actually a very good thing. Okay. A very quick question. I'm going to ask Randy Wrench, who's on this call. I spoke with at the very beginning of this call. Randy, there's a dictionary that you have used to find medical copy, but I think that may have been Forvo you once mentioned to me. Is that correct?
Oh gosh, that was so long ago. I'm afraid I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No worries. No worries. Okay. Let me see what else we have here. Someone is saying, thanks for mentioning audio descriptions. I'm visually impaired, trying to fit it into. Oh, you wrote, this is, oh, there's no name. It just says iPad 2 is the name. They talk about imagination video books. Yes. And I just emailed with them. I do a lot of work with imagination video books, and I got both of my sons who are 12, they're 12 and 15. They're both narrating for imagination right now. And just earlier today, they sent me one of the finished products, which is super cool, with the audio descriptions in place. So that's very, very cool that you mentioned that. Great organization. Let's see. Question: where does one go to get medical voiceover work? I am new to the voiceover industry. Erica, do you want to take that?
Yeah. There is, you've all probably heard of online casting. That I think is where a lot of people end up finding voice actors for some of this work. If you're a direct marketing kind of person who likes to send out emails, there are healthcare ad companies, ad agencies. And I would say that's another really great place to let people know that you're doing medical narration. You can go. Some pharmaceutical companies and some hospitals also have their own video departments, and you just never know. And I've done a lot of cold emailing to just video producers in the healthcare industry. And it just happens to be, if there's a really large organization that already has kind of their in-house marketing team, then you can get on their list.
And I would throw this in, when you market your demo to a medical facility or anyone who specializes in medical voiceover work or audiovisual work, I would call yourself a medical narrator rather than a voice actor. Because if you just say, I'm a voice actor or I'm a voiceover artist, their minds immediately go to commercial. And someone might be thinking, well, we have no need for commercials here. We don't put out commercials. But if you say, I'm a medical narrator and I specialize in factual, straightforward medical text and pharmaceutical text, and I understand the jargon and I speak the jargon and I can pronounce the jargon and so on, then they will take interest in you, which is a wonderful segue to someone's question here.
Can I add one more thing about this question of finding work? The other thing that I end up narrating a lot is for motion graphics animation studios. Motion graphic animation is all of the animation that you see, and you've all seen it before. It's the animated video that goes along and shows you, the little germ and then the drug that comes and latches on, or it can be a device. Anyway, those kinds of video production. but going on. Sorry, David, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it occurred to
No,
me.
it's fine. It's great information. Someone wrote, I work in medicine and I'm interested in voiceover. Do you find that someone with background has an advantage or not? Absolutely, you have an advantage. It doesn't mean that you can be successful as a voice actor, but you absolutely have an advantage because theoretically you should be able to pronounce the words, and that's key, absolutely key.
And you
Let
know what
me-
it's about. I want to add too
Yeah,
that a lot
absolutely.
of what this, after a while, you have to like part of just being able to pronounce is not the only job that you have. You have to kind of tell the story or get the message across and know what that is. And sometimes it can get a little lost for people who aren't as aware of the medical terminology.
A terrific point. That is why Erica specializes in this and I don't. Truly, it's such a good point because this is to everyone, and no matter what your wheelhouse is in voiceover, when you appreciate the information, when you understand that industry, that when you're interested in the subject matter, that interest is really translated through your voice to the ears of the listener because things do make sense. You enjoy the work better. You don't need to focus as much. It's not as difficult to narrate the scripts because you understand what you're saying and you understand how to pronounce the words. And man, it makes such a big difference to the listener. It goes a very long way. It also is incredibly helpful when you're marketing. Because if you market to a medical agency, for example, and you say, look, I've seen your work, you guys do terrific work. And I happen to be a medical narrator, and I'd love to, pick a time and pick your brain and explore ways to work together. That's a wonderful way into a client. It's an amazing way into a client rather than just sending a cold voiceover commercial demo, which they're going to delete. So yeah, being in this industry it does give you a very large advantage, which is great. I was going to make a point. Oh, I lost my point. Let me get back to the questions over here. Oh, Erica. So do you want to read something?
Sure. I think I have it. Let me see if I can. I just I have to go find it again. But
Okay, while you're looking for that, let me read another question here. As a former medical transcriptionist, that is why I'm interested in branching out my voiceover career into medical narration. Yeah, if you are a voice actor and you're familiar with this jargon, you're familiar with the industry, you have contacts in this industry, you can talk about it comfortably. There's no reason for you not to be in working in the medical field in voiceover work. It is amazing how much work there is. Medical and pharmaceutical voiceover work. Unless you're immersed in it, I think it's really hard to understand how much work there is, but there is an insane amount. And a lot of physicians do end up narrating stuff. And we've had CEOs of organizations, of hospitals record their own scripts. And sometimes their voices aren't even very good. They're not even trained voice actors, but because they're familiar with the content, because they are the CEO of a university or a hospital or a pharmaceutical company, they get the work, and there is a lot of work for even the non-CEOs. Erica, when you have something, let me know. I'll keep going through
yeah,
questions.
I'm ready.
Okay.
We'll see if I'm ready. Of course, I open my mouth and then I'm like, oh, do I remember this anymore? Okay, here you go. Ehrlichia chafiensis and Ehrlichia chagrins symptoms may include fatigue, fevers, headaches, and muscle aches. It can be treated with antibiotics, such as doxycycline or minocycline and rifampin. If left untreated, ehrlichiosis can become severe and require hospitalization. Anaplasmosis is a tick-borne infection caused by the bacterium Anaplasma phagocytophilum and is similar to Ehrlichia. Symptoms may include headaches, fever, chills, malaise, and muscle aches. Is that enough?
Works for me. I will tell you that when I direct this, and I have directed a lot of medical work in my time, I don't understand what I'm listening to. I can get through an audiobook, and I can get through a script, a 30-second commercial, whatever the length, and at the end say, I heard every sound. I made sure the voice actor said everything correctly. The emphasis is right. The consistency is right. Pacing is right. I have absolutely no idea what the content is about. It's funny. Sounds great, Erica. Thank you. Question here, would it be helpful to have a medical demo or at least a couple of medical related spots on a narration demo? Absolutely. Let me talk very briefly about demos. And Erica, maybe you can fill in some stuff as well here. The thing with a narration demo is it's broad. It's a good thing. It's broad. It can get you work in 20 or so different genres, and that's great. You're sort of a jack of all trades. The phrase jack of all trades has a negative connotation, but I don't. So there's probably a different phrase I should use, because it is good to have a narration demo. It opens you up to a lot of possibility. Yet, if you want to focus on any specific genre or subject matter in the voiceover industry, having a demo that speaks just to that is amazing. Because when you market that specialty type of demo to a marketing person in that world or a casting person in that world, they take you that much more seriously. So back to the example we spoke about just 5 minutes ago, if you find a medical agency somewhere, or the HR department at a hospital, or the AV department at a hospital, and you say, I'm a voice actor, they probably don't need you because they think you narrate commercials. If you say, I'm a narrator, they might say, that's interesting. Yeah, you can send your demo. But if you say, I'm a medical specialist and narrator, and I focus on, and you go through a whole bunch of things like that, then you are very meaningful to them. You're exactly what it is that they need. So yes, you should have a medical demo if you want to focus on medical work. And what's interesting about a medical demo is it can include commercials and narrations on the same demo, because the medical demo is not about a genre such as commercial work or narration work. Rather, it's about medical work. So on a medical demo, you may have an excerpt of a medical podcast, an excerpt of a commercial, an excerpt of a medical app. It can combine all different types of things, all different types of medical work. And hopefully you would have one, your doctor wanted you to watch this video to tell you what you're about to go through, and you may have an app and I don't know, just all different kinds of things on that one medical demo, and it's great. It's a great way to get work. And by the way, you can coach with Erica. She does offer coaching. Great time to throw this little sales thing in, but she's an amazing coach, and she can help you put together a medical demo. So if you want training in medical VO work, even if you just want to get some concepts down, then call her office and say, I'd like to work with Erica privately. And yeah, she's terrific. I've worked with Erica quite a number of times over the years. And Erica, when did we first work together?
Well, that's a good question.
5,
Maybe
6?
it was like 5 or 6 years ago, and it was great. I think David has really great ears, even if he might not know what the words are or what they mean. You have these like phenomenal ears of being able to be like, no, I needed to hear that internal T, or I needed to hear that closing consonant, or whatever. And I have to say, I think being articulate, and when I say that, it doesn't mean that you pronounce words or you're understandable just to be understandable, but having really clear diction in such an international field. I think that at the end of the day, they need your English to be impeccable, because everyone around the world needs to be able to understand it. Oftentimes, this neutral English that is kind of a desired sound is in a lot of ways, it's that they want to be able to understand the consonants and the vowels. And in every country where English is spoken as a second language, or is spoken as kind of the default world language that everyone speaks. So I thank you for your ears, David, in helping me with that.
I thank you for your voice.
Mm.
Okay, here's a question. Does Erica or anyone else know of the potential for work in the area in Japan? I guess they mean in the medical area, in medical work in Japan.
Can I ask a follow-up? If you want to open your microphone up, do you speak Japanese, or do you speak English and you want to get work in Japan? And my answer is yes. There's a lot of medical research happening in Japan. Japan has their own FDA. We know that Food and Drug Administration does all of the regulation of drugs in the United States. There's a European one, and then Japan has its very own one. And my understanding is any company in America that makes a drug that's going to be sold in Japan then has to learn all of the regulations that are involved in that, which might be like another layer of training or another layer of marketing, because it's kind of like it has to be translated to a different audience. So I would think going the Japan route, whether or not you speak Japanese, could be really advantageous. And then I'm not exactly sure what the route is, but you could figure it out by just kind of figuring out who, especially the pharmaceutical companies. I would go that direction first because that's going to have the most international reach.
Thank you. There are a few questions sort of around the same topic here. What style are they looking for in medical narration, meaning conversational, believable, authoritative? The answer is yes.
All of the above.
Yep,
Yeah.
without question. So one thing Erica just said a moment ago is that if that neutral American is so desirable, but I do know a number of voice actors who don't speak neutral American. They have a New York accent, a Boston accent, a Long Island accent, and they have done medical work. But what they have narrated is playing the part of the patient in patient-doctor videos. So in those situations, it's very desirable to have someone who really sounds like a regular person. You don't want someone to speak so formally and clearly. And so, really, there is
I
every
should
kind
tell you,
of
I
work
have been
available.
hired twice for my German accent because I lived in Germany for a long time. So I have kind of a natural German accent. And I've been hired twice for these scenarios because they were looking for someone with a German accent who could embody the character. And they were both patients. So even like you can do your character acting essentially in these scenarios,
Yep,
which
very
is
true.
very fun and cool.
And outside of that, medical work encompasses such a wide area of work, as I mentioned earlier. So commercials on TV, you watch a commercial for whatever medicine it might be. That's very often just a regular person sound, right? It's not a spokesperson, but sometimes there are spokesperson sounds. There's really work in this field for every type of voice.
I think sounding competent is like the most, when we talk about authoritative, I think it's just sounding so fluent in medicalese that you sound competent. You sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and what interesting. So, quick lesson with what to sound competent. What that really means to me is to make sure that your phrases resolve. They come down to a period rather than ending things on an upward inflection like that. So instead of saying, your doctor wanted you to watch, your doctor wants you to watch this video to tell you how to give yourself self injections, and you should do it twice a day, and then you have to take this medicine. Instead of having your inflection go up at the end, you want to sound factual or competent. Great word for it, Erica, competent, by coming down at the end of your phrases. So everything is more factual, more straightforward. It comes to like a conclusion. So I told Erica right before everyone came on, there is a technique that I came up with many years ago to be able to pronounce difficult medical words. So I queued it up. So I want to share my screen for a moment and show you guys this. When I first put up my page and when I share my screen, it will look a little overwhelming. So first, let me tell you what you'll be looking at, and then I'll put the screen up or my page up on the screen. This started so many years ago when I was working with a voice actor. I was directing them on something. I think it may have been even scientific copy, not even necessarily medical copy. I think scientific. But there were some gigantic words, and the voice actor just could not get through them all. So what I did is I took a long word, I broke it up into individual syllables, and I had the voice actor pronounce one syllable and then take a break. And that was easy. And then just pronounce the next syllable and then take a break, and just on and on and on. And then I edited the syllables together. Now, at that point, the word sounded a bit choppy, but it showed the voice actor, you know what? If I could look at the word in individual little pieces sometimes, instead of looking at the big full word, but just take it piece by piece by piece, it really becomes much more easy to get through the word. And so over that time, I've kind of developed two ways to get through complicated words. So let me cue up my screen here. There it is. Okay, let me make this a bit larger. Here's the top. So imagine, actually, can someone give me a thumbs up if you see this?
We see it.
Okay, cool. So imagine that this that I'm highlighting here is a script that you need to record. So this could be a little challenging. That's a kind of a big word and a couple of bigger words at the end. So what you can do is take the word and write it out in letters that make more sense to you, and then separate the syllables. So let's go back to the first word for a second. The first word, the last syllable is crine, C-R-I-N-E. But it's not pronounced like C-R-I-N-E because C-R-I-N-E would, if you just saw that word by itself, you'd think it's crine. It sounds more like K-R-I-N, which I'm circling here with my mouse. So what I've taken is that word, I've broken it up into individual syllables and respelled those syllables, and then I highlight them. And then I put spaces between each syllable. So visually, I can see that all of these syllables belong together. But it's really easy to record this way because when you get to this word in your script, instead of looking at this up here, you see it this way. And you can take it syllable by syllable, and it's grouped together and it works much more easily. I'm not saying that it's easy copy to get through, but it's certainly a lot easier for most voice actors who have learned this technique. I'll show you the second way. It's almost the same thing, but just a little bit more formal. Let's suppose that this here that I'm highlighting is your script. Here, what you can do is look up the pronunciation of the medical words and write those in your script. And then break it up syllable by syllable and group the syllables together with a color. Now, that gives you a more accurate pronunciation. I find it a bit more challenging, but it works for some people. So let me just leave this on the screen for just a moment. Let you take one more look at it, 10 seconds, and then I'm going to switch back to...
And I know some people, I'll just add to that, instead of doing the underline for the emphasized syllable, I know people who capitalize that syllable too, as another way of kind of reminding yourself where the emphasis goes.
Yeah, sure. Right. So yeah, you can capitalize something or bold it or italicize it. Ultimately, guys, whatever works for you in reading a script is what you need to do. And sometimes it takes a bit of practice or trial, just experimentation to figure out what works for you. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen here. Okay. Getting back to some questions here.
There are a few questions about vocal, like I think vocal register and pitch and kind of what are people looking for. And I will say, I think a lot of the very medical narration part, the part that's very authoritative or very competent sounding, typically tends to fall in kind of a middle range for women, middle to lower range for women, and for men also in a baritone range. But don't let that limit you, because I think at the core of it is getting the message across. So if you can sound like a doctor or a nurse or a scientist, that's what they're looking for. Typically, the younger voices will be for audiences that are young. So if you have a young voice, you can do all the stuff for the CDC where they're trying to talk to teenagers about safe sex, or trying to talk to, college students about getting various tests done, like, I don't know, hepatitis or something. That I wouldn't ever rule out that medical isn't in your future just because of a vocal pitch that you tend to makes you sound younger or older. Patients come in all different shapes and sizes and ages, and it's all necessary. It's all needed. We've
been recording since COVID. We have been recording a lot of narration for the CDC, a lot of their COVID stuff, which has been really interesting. There's a question here in the chat. I'm going to sort of rephrase it and ask it in a different way, which I think might be interesting to people. Erica, when you audition for medical copy, do you audition and do you do anything differently when you audition for medical work as opposed to non-medical work? And I should let everyone know that that Erica also records a lot of non-medical work. So, is there anything different that you do?
Um, I do a lot. I have a lot more words to look up, and I do look them up for an audition, especially. I think there are many of us who have won jobs because we simply pronounced the words right. It is amazing how, I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to sound like a doctor. You just have to sound like you're competent on the script. So I would say I do a lot of looking up of words if I don't know them. And then I really end up, I mean, I do this for all of my copy, but I always ask myself, who am I talking to? And sometimes it's mysterious. Unlike an ad, I feel like for commercials, the marketing team is like, we want to reach this demographic between this age and this age who really are interested in this kind of product. And like all of a sudden you have this persona, but sometimes in medical, they're not quite as forthcoming with who this is for. So you have to be a little bit more of a scientist yourself and figure out why is this written the way it is, and then deliver it to various audiences. So that's what I would say is different. I almost always give a conversational read because I think that is typically what's preferred. And then there might be a second one that's either I would go more authoritative, which means possibly a little bit more, slightly less melody, or I might go in the other direction and make it very patient centered and make it very intimate. Those would be kind of a lot of my take one, take twos are some variation on that.
Someone just put up a question. Oh, it just bounced down on me. Hang on. They wrote, I am a doctor, but I don't sound like one, which is funny. And it's especially funny to me because just earlier today, even late this afternoon, like 3 or 4 hours ago, I had to review a recording that was done by a doctor. And this guy did not at all sound like a doctor. He had a thick New York, Long Island accent. Just really, it was interesting to listen to, but he's out there doing some pretty big work. Something that I thought of toward the beginning of this call, and then it escaped my mind, but I just remembered it when Erica, you said something that reminded me. I once worked with a voice actor, and they were auditioning for a medical script, and it was not a very long audition, but they said to me, "My goodness, this was like the hardest audition ever. I had to look up so many words, learn how to pronounce these words. It took me like 2 hours to get through this one little passage." And I said, "Why would you audition for that? What are you going to do if you get the job? If the job is an hour long, it's 10 hours long, you're screwed." Like, so the point to everyone here is I would not suggest auditioning for medical copy unless you think you can get through the jargon. If you
And
can't
you
get
like
through the
it.
jargon
You have
and
to
you like
like it.
yeah, yeah.
There's so much out there that will make you money if you're looking to make money, and you don't have to put yourself through medical copy if you don't like it.
Yeah, let me look for another question here. What is the pay like for medical narrator in comparison to a regular voiceover professional? That's an interesting question. I think we can both talk quite a bit to that. Erica, do you want to start?
Um, I typically, I don't, Edge Studio has a rate card, but I think they tend to go into the GVAA one even more in detail, but it tends to fall on the higher side. Even if you do like e-learning, usually the range is something like 25 to 35 cents a word for e-learning. The 35 to 40 cent a word is when you're doing medical copy. So you can charge a premium, but it also comes with that added work that David just talked about too. A lot of prep time. You could do a lot of prep for this sort of stuff, especially if it's a live directed session with clients on the call. You don't want to waste their time or looking competent.
I feel that anytime you as a voice actor specialize in something and the client needs that, they need you as the specialist, you have the right to charge more. I don't know if right is the right word to use, but you can charge more typically because once you win over a client, they say, you are the person we need. Yeah, other people are jacks of all trades, but you specialize in this exact thing. We need someone with your kind of voice who understands this material, who can get through the material, and pronounce it correctly, and you got them. So something that Erica said, and I will reiterate, it's so true that when you audition, if you get through the words correctly, the chance of you winning is increased by tenfold, because so many auditions, when we listen to them, the voice actors have mispronounced words. It shocks me to this day, and not only in medical work, but in all work. We find that even something that's very straightforward, it could be a street name of a bank or something, but the voice actor has not taken the 1 minute to go out there and do a little bit of research to find out how to pronounce a street name. Because maybe it's just sometimes I don't know, I can't think of an example offhand. Oh, Black Rock Turnpike or Black Rock Turnpike. Even with like the emphasis can be different sometimes. And it's not hard to do your research, guys. So really a lesson for all voiceover auditions is to do your research. Take a moment, look up words which could have multiple pronunciations. Words like envelope or envelope, data or data. There are lots of these words. Sometimes you can call the client and see how they prefer something. Sometimes you can look in the dictionary and find out what is more common in the States or internationally, wherever the piece is being played. And same with medical work. You'll, do your homework. And that's great, Erica, because if you have done your homework when everyone is on the phone and you get through that material more quickly, you just score points. And the client will say, you are the person we will always hire. Okay, let me go back to questions here.
Someone asked about, and I'll also rephrase this question. Someone asked about markets, like the Hispanic market versus, I would imagine the question I guess I would ask, this is how do you find production companies that would focus on the medical narration for Hispanic market? And I would say, almost, I think, you would probably, if you want to do real medical narration, you probably need to do it in Spanish speaking countries. If you're wanting to speak with the Spanish speaking population in the United States, that's a totally different thing. And I would go to any company that's creating videos, especially for example, the CDC or any hospitals. I think that if you're a bilingual voice actor with Spanish, English, you can be a double threat, triple threat, because they're often having to translate things into other languages. Spanish being a very important one. I would say also Chinese, Vietnamese. I mean, just look at your communities and where your immigrant populations are and market, because you might be the only person they know who speaks the language of the people that they're trying to reach. And you have a recording studio and everything.
I was not listening at all, truth be told, because I was looking for an interesting question. Sorry.
That's okay. We were just talking about markets and being bilingual or looking to market yourself in various kind of pockets, niches. I think also looking for my suggestion for making a demo or even just a sample that you would want to put on an online casting site. Find something that resonates with you. If you are a person of a certain age and male, maybe you do something regarding colonoscopies. If you are a member of the Black community, I think of sickle cell anemia as being something that can't be narrated by anyone else because it is a disease that affects only people of African descent. If you have a younger voice, find something that would be appealing for that. There's a way to market your sound to actual medical or diseases or whatever treatments that fit your demographic and that you can speak to. And I think it's just a great way to market yourself.
Yeah, I believe that holds true for any demo. Anytime you put a script on a demo, you should say to yourself, would a casting person hire my voice? Would they hire me for this particular script? And if the answer is no, then it really shouldn't go on your demo. I know a lot of voice actors who try to build their own demos say, oh, but this script is so interesting, I want to put it on my demo anyway. But if it doesn't seem real, then when a casting person listens to it, they're very likely to say, that doesn't sound real. And therefore, maybe your whole demo is artificial, it's made up. Like, you want your demo to sound like it could be bits of real paid work. Someone asked a question here. Oh, Ted P. Great question, Ted. How do you express all the side effects ultra quickly? So yeah, I'm sure all of you have heard the fine print, so to speak, at the end of some medical commercials, and boy, that fine print is spoken quickly. So your second part of the question, someone wrote, cadence. I don't have my glasses on. I think it is wrote, in my experience, the voice actor says the phrase as quickly as they can, and then the recording engineer does their magic and speeds it up without changing the pitch. No. About 6 or 7 years ago, I did an experiment. About 4 or 5 engineers and myself did an experiment and came up with the best way. We are really nerds to do this, geeks beyond geeks, but whatever, that's what we did. We came up with, we wanted to find the best way to be able to have that text, that fine print, sound really fast. And does that mean that you do start with a voiceover that's really fast or one that's really slow? And it was clear, starting with voiceover that's very slow, so the voice actor can articulate incredibly clearly, is key. So when you hear that fine print that's super fast, that typically is a voice actor who's speaking very slowly, very articulately, and then there's something that is clear that the engineer can speed up. It's the speeding up process is called time compression. It's software you can purchase very easily online. Time compression software. So and it doesn't.
I don't think I
change
ever
with
knew
it.
that. I mean, because I always just try to fit it in the time. I just
Yeah,
always just try to do it.
My guess with you, Erica, is that even when you speak quickly, you are still very articulate. So it may not be as much of an issue.
I also think that, I don't know if you guys have seen commercials recently on TV, but those side effects don't zip by like they used to.
No,
I feel
there's a
like
reason for that.
Yeah, they're like 1.5-minute commercials now,
Mhm.
where, you see the guy throwing the football and he's like, with this drug, everything's going fine. And then you're like, whatever, you hear all of this may cause diarrhea and vomiting and death, but, but this changed my life. You know what I mean? But I think if anything, learning how to read all of that stuff in a conversational tone is probably what's being asked for more now than before. I don't know, David, you have done a lot more directing.
Yeah, like I said, we record a lot of medical commercials, and that the fine print, the side effects, the stuff that I think the company doesn't necessarily want to put out there, but they have to legally. It's typically done in the middle of a commercial, so the commercial ends on an up note. Whereas in the old days, we'd have the entire commercial that's rah rah rah, everything sounds great, and then you leave that commercial with the downsides. Right, that's a downer. Why leave the potential customer on a downer? So now that stuff is put in the middle and is not done super fast, because the super fast thing catches people's attention. It's a normal part of the voiceover, which is a great thing to put on your demo, guys. Great thing. Sounding conversational, reading medical copy is terrific. Okay, we have 4 minutes left, so I want to do a couple of announcements here. One, I'm reminding you to download the chat. It's very simple. At the bottom of your chat, you should have 3 little buttons. I'm looking at mine. Even without my glasses, I can see them. You click that, and there's an option to download the chat. So that will be up there for about another 3 or 4 minutes. Oops, sorry, lost you there. Erica,
Yeah.
You're terrific. I want everyone to know that Erica is donating her time to help you all out. She's sharing her knowledge. And so I feel that she deserves a round of applause. You're all muted, so applause is sort of weird, but you can see the hands clapping.
I love that. This is great. I also met someone who was doing like high fives in Zoom, or like hi Ted. I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of them now. There's the heart. Have any of you seen the heart? Like this thing? Yeah, some of you seen that. Erica, you speak so well. It's so good to hear your voice. You answer questions so clearly. what I like, everyone, what I like about Erica's voice is she doesn't stutter. She doesn't when she speaks. She just gets the point out. You're articulate, you're eloquent. You are made for this industry, and it's not surprising that you do so well in medical work and also outside of medical VO work. So, like I said earlier, you should take advantage of Erica because she is offering coaching, and you can get her through our office, whether it's a medical demo or even just 1 or 2 sessions, just to kind of get this under your belt. Because I really do believe that the kind of coaching that Erica can give you will apply to all of your voiceover work. So I think that that'd be a very wise move on your parts. We will
And
be
I'm
back.
also starting something new. I don't know, David, if we want to mention this, that we're starting take twos. Were you going to mention that?
I wasn't, but we will now. But we're not
I don't
calling
know.
them take twos.
Take two.
We're
We're
not calling it
starting.
that.
I'm calling it take two. It might change its name, but I like it. We're doing, we're going to do some workout sessions coming up on a regular basis. I think twice a month, and I'm leading them, but I'm not leading them as I'm more of a facilitator. And what we're doing is coaching each other. So we're using breakout rooms, and you bring 3 pieces of copy. You practice them at home, you bring them, and then you and your peers all work through them together and perform them for each other. And so you come in with a take 1, and then your peers help you on your take 2. And we do that in an hour. And you guys have practiced 3 scripts, 2 different ways.
Peer-to-peer help is amazing. It is the best way, because when you play the part of the casting director, it forces you to listen like a casting person. It completely changes the way you approach voiceover. Every one of our coaches, who are all full-time voice actors, always say the same thing to me. After even a small number of coaching sessions, they say, it's amazing because my own work now has improved vastly. Again, when you were thrown into the position where you were directing a voice actor, you really notice things differently. And that allows you to, your ears really perk up, and then you self-direct yourself so much better. You just start doing better. So yeah, Erica will be offering these. We're starting next month. It is twice a month. We will have an email go out soon, probably in about a week to a week and a half. We'll have emails going out about these. We'll have, you can buy them single sessions, or you can buy a 6-month pass. So everyone, thank you so much for sticking on with us for the hour. I hope this was helpful. Erica, great to see you. Great to hear you again. And we will be back the 3rd Thursday of next month. I don't know what the special will be, but we will have something. If any of you ever have a special or a focus that you want us to concentrate on in and Ask Me Anything, just let us know, and we're happy to certainly consider it. So with that, hopefully everyone has had a few minutes to download the chat, and I wish you a great month, everyone. Thank you so much.
Hi,
Erica.
everybody. Thank you.